Hi there, it's the beginning of the last week of July, and this is a little video for one of the more curious and secluded little corners of the orchard. This is in fact what we call the oval spinney. A spinney is a small area of tall trees to be distinguished from a copse. Copse is a small area of trees where the trees are cut to make new shoots come up, and here this has been grown as tall trees. We planted all of this, I think about 20 years ago. The main species here are larch, and they were planted because I think they're very beautiful, and for no other reason, especially in spring. I love the new green of the larch. They're quite tall now. How tall are they? About 45 feet, I think. We've just come back from a short trip in Wales, where we've seen large areas of larch which have been completely destroyed by this fungal disease that's entered the country, which threatens to kill all of our larch, which would be a very great tragedy for me, although not as bad as if all of our ash trees were wiped out, and that also is threatened. Goodness me, I'm a glum so-and-so, aren't I? This is incidentally is a self-seeded walnut, and bored out by this walnut moth. This is quite dead. Well, oh no, it's not quite dead. Well, I mean, sorry, I've just done a bit of damage to it by pulling it down, but this is never going to survive. It's a self-seeded. A squirrel must have brought a walnut in from, we've got a big walnut tree, bored out by this moth that seems to be very common on it. But anyway, having said that, just to show you that out of interest. This is mainly left to itself. We've also got some ash here, Serbian spruce, Norway spruce, which is the famous Christmas tree, and a few various odds and ends, such as this. This is a red wild plum. Actually, you know, I can't remember everything now. I think or is it a beech? Yeah, there's a lot of randomness, and you know, we didn't try to control everything here. But this was planted as a visual shelter belt, and this is a stand of wood. And because, as I've often explained, we ended up buying much more land than we ever needed, because it was the parcel of land that came on the market when we had the time. It was 3 times more land than we ever wanted for our apple project, but we couldn't just leave it, so we planted various stands of trees, and that's the oval spinney which I've just emerged from. And where I'm standing right now, there used to be a quince tree. It was badly planted. We planted it here. I just hadn't realised, I hadn't thought how tall all of these trees would grow, and of course they shaded the quince. I dug the quince out from just down here. It took me half a day to do it, half killed me. So I'm afraid the other quinces which are down here have been left. I've planted a few other quinces further up. This is a medlar. Medlars and quince are often considered together, but they're not particularly related. They're just slightly odd trees which have been grown for a long time, and they're slight curiosities, really. I'll say more of them on another occasion. But we've got a few funny little trees here that just got put here and wasn't very well planned. But you know, we leave them and say, oh, this medlar here gives us more than enough medlars for all that we want. There's another couple of quinces there. That one's in better shape. You can see it's actually got some quince on it. Oh, incidentally, while we're down here, this was a Burhardy pear tree on quince A rootstock. Grew very strong and very well, but it was just miles away from all the other pear trees. Again, slightly chaotic planning or lack of planning. I couldn't manage it where all the pears got damaged very badly by wasps. I grafted it over to a pear, Blakeney Red, because this is the Peace Orchard. This is the section down here, of which more presently, which is being converted into an unsprayed, naturally managed wildflower meadow with widely spaced pear trees. And this was grafted. You can see there's a rind graft there, and that was a cleft graft. Not very pretty. I grafted one here, but it didn't succeed. Not very pretty, but it's pretty solid, and you can see the kind of growth. In fact, this year is the 3rd year since it was grafted. It's made a metre of growth, nearly Look at the strength of that. You know, it's now, I mean, that's where my head comes up to 6 feet tall. This is certainly 10 feet tall, growing very, very strongly. Pears have been selected over centuries for a certain set of qualities that they have, and one of them is disease resistance. The old pears, traditionally they're not sprayed, they're just allowed to grow 40, 50 feet tall and drop all their pears with a bit of help from a pole that you put up and shake them. So this area down here is being transformed over to a wildflower meadow with widely spaced pears. This is called Thorn, this variety. I got this from Ashridge Nurseries, they're quite good. The second year this was in, it's growing quite well. That's a pear called Brandy, just there, there's another one. And what you'll notice, there's a lot of wild flowers here, and there are some paths between them. The only management we've been doing down here is we've been moving some dung to put around the pear trees. We have used a minimum amount of herbicide to clear around the base of the pear trees, and Julia takes the heavy ride-on mower through here to carve paths between blocks of wildflowers. I mean, I couldn't even begin to name more than a tiny number of these wildflowers, and we get different ones at different seasons. So, I mean, sort of 6 weeks ago we had a huge growth of ox-eye daisy. They have shed their seed and have all died back, and we've got various others now. And the insects absolutely love it. As I say, with the exception of a tiny amount of carefully directed weed killer around here, no pesticides. We're moving away from using pesticides at all. But this is basically naturally insect rich. There's a vetch there, little leguminous wild plant. It's producing its own seed. Here's the ox-eye daisy, which is a very pretty flower in its time. It's died back, produced seed, which again it'll drop its own seed. It's self-perpetuating. I did bung in a handful, about 50 pounds worth, very costly stuff. A handful of Cotswold wildflower mix. I just sort of widely scattered it and let natural selection do its work. Most of them didn't take, but some did. A lot of cowslips grow now here, which we never had before, so they probably came in. And this is buzzing with bees. I don't know what this flower is, probably someone can tell me, but the bees clearly love it. Absolutely. We don't keep bees. Yeah, I know we should, but we haven't got the time, we haven't got the energy. There's all kinds of stuff that we just can't do. You know, if we were younger and we lived here, it would be another matter. Anyway, it's another pear. It's the biggest pear we've got. This is the oldest one. I was talking with my daughter Emily earlier this week about, you know, how to save up money to put a deposit on a house, and I said it's just like the Chinese proverb: when is the best time to plant a tree? The best time is 20 years ago. The second best time is today, or at least the next planting season. And I'm looking at this big tall Winnell's Longdon pear, which is standing about 15 feet tall. It's an off year this year, it's growing a lot. Next year there should be a lot of fruit on it, and 10 years from now, God willing, you know, you could have enough off of there to produce 20 gallons of very fine perry. And how I wish that I had been, you know, sufficiently visionary and bitten the bullet and made the effort 15, 20 years ago to have planted a load of pears here, but I didn't. You know, my life was very different then. Anyway, I'm doing it now. Okay, here's another pear. This one's called Brandy, variety Brandy. We've got two of these, and this comes from a Deacon's Nursery in the Isle of Wight. I haven't had a lot of dealings with them, but what dealings I have had with Deacon's Nursery Isle of Wight have been entirely satisfactory. These seem to be immune to the dreaded pear midge, which has been so destructive on a lot of my dessert pears. We haven't had any on these, so here's hoping that these carefully selected perry varieties, you can't eat them, they're completely inedible, but they make exceedingly good drink. One is hoping that we'll be able to get away with not spraying these. But hey, our ancestors hundreds of years ago used to produce pears that were good enough when they were well made, I mean, in good years, to compare with French or Spanish wines, and indeed were used at top tables. And they didn't have any agricultural chemicals available to them, so we can be hopeful. If you listen, I can't hear any cars. I can hear the rustle of various insects. There's another pear. This is a variety called Butt. We've got a big variety, a big tree that's about 40 feet tall, but it's planted in the wrong place. It's surrounded by a tall tree and completely shaded. But I took a bit of wood from it and grafted this on some rootstocks. These are some seedling pear rootstocks which I bought from Keeper's Nursery in Kent. I found them to be very good, quite pricey, but very good. Keeper's Nursery in Kent. And these look very healthy, don't they, these leaves? These haven't had any pesticide at all, and they seem to be very healthy, strong leaves. Again, these were carefully selected by our ancestors over not decades but centuries from original sports that were grafted here. So this is Helen's Early. This grew quite poorly for me. This is the only bad tree I've ever had from Ashridge Nurseries. It came with a pitiable roots, but we sort of nursed it on. It survived and just held on for 2 or 3 years. I pruned it back very hard 2 years ago, and now look at the growth it's making. So, you know, it is sometimes worth persevering, and that's looking really good. So actually, assuming that this ripens well, I won't want all of this growth, so I'll be cutting some of this out, and so I should have some Helen's Early Perry to send out. Anyway, so this is from the oval spinney, which you can see there in outline. Look at it from above, and you can see our orchard on Google Earth. You can see that's an oval shape. The main species there are Norway spruce and larch, with a few other things mixed in, and it's mainly for visual effect. Eventually, you know, maybe I'll make some firewood. We had a lot of good kindling out of it, incidentally. Larch, you know, the lower branches die and dry out and drop off, and they make the best kindling in the world. And the great John Seymour said, if you cannot light a fire with dry larch twigs, well, you just cannot make a fire, full stop. I'm just walking over to look at one particularly interesting wildflower. Looking through the peace meadow here. The ideal thing to do with all of these plants is that when they hit, to let them set seed, and when they've set seed, let them stand, and perhaps before the autumn to come through and scythe them down. I do make some hay out of them. But this is, if you like, a vanity. It's a folly, if you like, but I think it's quite an agreeable one. I wish I'd had the idea earlier to turn that into a widely spaced traditional pear orchard with a meadow of wildflowers. Hey, I'm getting older, and it's the kind of thing that appeals to me much more now than it used to. Yeah, teasels. These are great fun plants. Apparently these are beloved of goldfinches, and I have seen they like to eat the seeds in the winter. There's a bee there taking some sustenance from the purple mauve flowers you get on these remarkable plants. These are biennials. They produce their flower and seeds in the second year after growth. Oh yeah, we're making a bonfire here. Obviously we're not going to burn that and destroy all of these plants just yet. This is Sir Julia's willow patch, and here are a few. Oh, I'm going to have to come down here with the scythe. I just haven't had the time. I've been away teaching and working and being tired and earning lots of money, so we've had to leave a lot of stuff here. But hey, a bit of studied neglect is okay. It's not like we were trying to make money out of the place or anything. I make my money elsewhere. just finally finished with a shot of these. You can see these very long catkins. These this sweet chestnut. There's a few little stand of sweet chestnut here at this end of the oval spinney. I'm quite attached to these particular sweet chestnuts because I raised them from seed. They're standing about 25 feet tall now. I remember putting the seeds in the ground. If you can just see the little chestnuts just coming on. Good years, hot, dry summers, we do actually get nuts from these. I remember we're just celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary this month, in fact next week, and the first year we were married we were living in student accommodation near a bit of woodland on the edge of Southampton, and there was a lot of chestnuts there, and it was the very hot summer of 1976, and we wandered through. Look at the growth this Norway spruce has made this year, the traditional Christmas tree. Incidentally, when people draw Christmas trees, I always draw them wrong because the leaf, as you can see, the branches aren't hanging down like this, which is how people draw them. They're going up like that. We planted these. We have dug these out and used them, brought them into our home for a bit of greenery at Christmas time. But again, a bit too big for that now, so we'll have to leave them and just bring some other green in. But yeah, anyway, in that particular summer, the summer of '76, in the autumn, after we got married in July, we moved into this student accommodation on the edge of a bit of woodland. We were students when we were married, and we picked so many chestnuts. We picked a sack of chestnuts. We were cooking them every night. We were making soup out of them. We were doing all kinds of things, and in fact, a lot of the peasants of Périgord, France, where I had a holiday recently, traditionally, chestnuts for them, they were not just an occasional sweetmeat at Christmas, but they collected so many from the woodlands that it was actually a significant ingredient for their diet, which is quite a fascinating thought to end this short, sort of, probably rather long now, summer video. Oh, finally. Yes, we started digging a pond 2 years ago. Then unfortunately had a nasty accident and too much pain to dig, so we haven't been working anymore. Oh, we looked as though an animal. Looks as though an animal's been digging down there. See the sand there is underneath. It's very sandy here, which is one reason why it's not as good for growing apples as it might be. It's not as moisture retentive, but at least it doesn't waterlog too badly. Okay, well that's goodbye from the orchard then for